Oh my, I know everyone's had pumpkin pie, but have you tried sweet potato pie? Stay tuned and I'll show you how to make these mini sweet potato pies and even how to make the pie crust. Welcome back to the Cozy Cottage Homestead. Today we're going to be making homemade pie crust, and then I'm going to show you how to make a sweet potato pie. So the first thing we need is a pie crust. This recipe will make 3 8-inch pie crust. So I'm going to start off the video with showing you how to make the pie crust. So the first thing you need is 3 cups of flour, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of sugar. You want to mix all of that up with your pastry cutter, or if you don't have a pastry cutter, you could use a knife, a couple butter knives, like some big forks, something like that. But just mix it all up. Then you want to add your shortening. You're going to use 1 1/4 of a cup of shortening. You could use 1 cup of shortening and 1/4 cup of butter, however you would like to do it. Either way, this is a very good frugal pie crust. Tastes really good. And these pie crusts also freeze very well. That's our 1 cup. And this is our 1/4. Seems like a lot, I know, but this is what it calls for. And it's really good. Alright, so you want to make sure your pastry cutter is in the flour. Just go ahead and dump a little bit of it over the top of the shortening. Keeps it from sticking. And you just start cutting it into the flour. If it keeps sticking, just use your finger and knock it off. Go again. You just want to get all of the big lumps of shortening out. Making sure you stir the bottom every once in a while. Okay, it should look kind of crumbly. Alright, the next thing you want to add is your egg. You're going to need 1 whole egg. You can just crack it in there. Doesn't have to be beaten. And then you're going to need 1 tablespoon of vinegar. And I'll go ahead and get my spoon, break up my egg just a little bit right here in my bowl. Go ahead and mix that in a little bit. And then you're going to add 5 tablespoons of water, cold water. And go ahead and mix that up with your spoon. And now we're fixing to have to get in here with our hands to do the rest of it. Alright, and I'll show you that in just 1 second. Okay, had to watch my battery. It's acting like it wants to go dead on me. Okay, so now we're just going to get in here with our hands and smash it all together. You want to try to make it into one big Play-Doh ball. It should be kind of dry and kind of stiff. If you find that it's not making a ball, then you might need to just add a little more water, like 1 teaspoon at a time. But I think this is looking good. Go ahead and knead it just a little bit. You don't want to over knead it. Okay, so we'll go ahead and lightly flour our surface here. And get this big old roll of dough out. Now you would just get this, again, I like to make it in a log, as uniform as possible. And then you're just going to cut it in 3 pieces. And you would roll out each one of these, and that would make your pie crust, 3 pie crusts. But what I'm going to do today is make some mini sweet potato pies. So I'm just going to keep all of my dough right here, stick it back together. Just want to show y'all that you can make the 3 pie crusts. Lightly flour my rolling pin. And I'm going to roll it out to the right thickness for a pie. It's going to be pretty thin. I'm not sure how many I'm going to need for my little muffin tins, so I'm just going to roll it all out as far as I can get it. Looks like I'm going to run out of room, so I'm going to go ahead and pull some of it back to the side and keep rolling it out. And if the sides look a little uneven, just push them back with your fingers and then roll it, and then it'll stick back together. Now we should have enough room. Hands are giving me a little bit of fits today, but we're going to get through it. Alright, we almost have it flat enough. I'm going to go a little bit longer on the edges here. Seem to be a little bit thicker. Alrighty. Just push the edges back a little bit if they're a little bit uneven. I like to feel it because if I feel it with my hands, I can tell if there's any thicker spots. And if there is, I just roll it a little bit more. Alright, let me move the camera a little bit. Okay, so what I've done is use a large plastic cup to cut some circles in the dough. And I have a muffin tin here. I'm going to continue to fill them up. Now this is a little more tedious than just using the dough to line a big pan. But I know they're going to be delicious, so they're worth the trouble. Just gently set them in the pan. Smush it around the edges a little bit. Make sure you have all the air bubbles out the bottom. Just go slow with it. Fill it in the muffin tin. I'm trying to get my 12 tins full first. And if I have dough left over, I will make that into a regular pie, for a regular size pie crust. And if it falls apart a little bit, remember it's just dough. You can smush it back together. Okay, I think we have one more cut over here. See if we can get it up without too much trouble. Just play around with the cups that you have or the glasses that you have to see what size you need to cut. I just guessed that this large one would be the right size, and it is actually the exact right size for what I want it. So just be creative. I'm just going to ball all this dough back up and start the process over. And continue to fill up my tins, and I'll be right back. Alrighty, so I have all 12 tins. Turn my little thing around so I can see what I'm doing. Full of the pie crust. So this is ready to be filled with the sweet potato pie filler. And then this big piece right here is what I have left over. So I have a baking dish right here. I will probably use the rest of this to make a chicken pot pie. So I'm a visual, so I would set this on top of it and see how much is hanging around the edges. And I know that this is about 2 inches deep, and that looks roughly about 2 inches all the way around my pie crust, so that I know that I have enough for this pie. I'm going to show you if it'll work right. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I smush all the edges together to make it kind of stick together better. And I'll show you how to carefully roll it up and put it in the glass pan, if it works right. It may not. So you just carefully want to fold it up, and hopefully it doesn't stick too bad. And if it does, just smush it back together. Okay, so it's kind of pulling apart. So I'm just going to go ahead and start over, because that does happen depending on the temperature. If it's too cold or too hot, sometimes it doesn't want to stick together as good. It might be a little bit too dry. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll try it again. I may have not even had the surface floured very good, so it's stuck. So if you don't like a good challenge, this might not be one for you. But it's such a forgiving thing, because you can just smush it back together and make it work for you. So we're going to roll it out again. Alright, this is probably like watching water boil. Let me go ahead and pause it for a second and see how we turn out this time. Okay, it's still not the prettiest, but it's going to work out just fine for us. I think it's just cool in here, so the shortening is a little stiff. So I put it over in a pan. It was quartered. Then I will just unfold it. And again, it's not a big deal if it breaks. We're going to smash it back out. I did it a little bit thicker this time, just so I could move it to my pan. And then at the pan, I will finish flattening it out. stretching it wherever it needs to go. So no worries. Sometimes that's just the way it works. I guess it's a southern thing. It's a little cool in the wintertime in the house, and it's a little warm in the summertime in the house during the summer. But it still makes a good pie crust. Hopefully y'all have, your house might be a little warmer inside than mine is, so it might do a little better for you. But I just really want to show you this part because of how much pie crust was left. I don't really need to make a whole bunch of pies this year for Thanksgiving, so that's why I went with the little mini ones. Now I could freeze this in the freezer just like it is, cover it up with some wax paper, then wrap it in freezer paper. You could also use the little pie pans, but since this one is going to be a supper dish, I went on ahead and put it in one of my glass baking dishes. And even though it looked a little rough, now it looks really good. Let me clean up my little area, and now we'll get on to the sweet potato pie. Alright, so I have dumped my canned sweet potatoes and drained them. Now I need to measure them to get about 1.5 cups. And sweet potatoes that's been canned are very soft, so it's very easy just to smash them up with a fork. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. A frugal tip: if you cooked up a mess of sweet potatoes the night before, saved you about 1.5 cups for making yourself a sweet potato pie. And you'll save yourself a lot of time. So they smashed up really easy. These are just plain sweet potatoes. I did not add anything to them so that I could add spices later or use it to make a pie. And this is about 1.5 cups. Go ahead and do my eggs first. Give myself some more room. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is lightly beaten 2 eggs. Want to add 1 cup of sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and 1/8 of a teaspoon of nutmeg. Go ahead and mix all of that up. This recipe that I'm using, it is called Vone's sweet potato pie. It is from my neighbor's mother. It became a traditional thing to use a recipe from his mother. She passed away from ovarian cancer, and I have a lot of her old recipes, and I like to add them to our meals. Because in case you didn't know or you missed it, my ex-husband is actually my neighbor. He is like my big brother. We were married for about 20 years, and we remained friends and remained sharing our homestead together. We have 2 separate homes, but I do a lot of the cooking for both families. So I always try to keep the traditional foods in the family. I have an original recipe that she wrote. Okay, what I was saying was that the original recipe that I have was from his mother, something that he enjoyed from his childhood, and we like to pass down the tradition in memory of her. So we had the eggs in here, and the sugar, and the salt, and the spices, and the Just going to mix it up really good. I lost my place. The camera battery, when it acts crazy like that, I lose my train of thought. Now we're going to add the milk. I'm going to add about a cup of milk. And this is powdered milk. Saves on the drinking milk. And this pie will make 2 8-inch pies, or I guess it would make probably 1 deep dish pie. And the butter, it should be softened because you do want it to mix in with the sweet potatoes, and that's 2 tablespoons. I'm just going to go ahead and mix it in. Now, if you would have just baked these sweet potatoes, they would be good and hot, so they would mix right in with no problem. I guess you could use the yams that are made already that you would buy store-bought with the spices and sweeteners and stuff in it. But we like to can our own sweet potatoes and just make them plain. And this is about a cup and a half of sweet potatoes. Okay, we're going to just mix that up really good. Might want to start a little slow because it will make a mess. And I already know this is going to make a lot more mix than what I need for my 12 muffin tins. So I will probably just make another pie crust later and make another sweet potato pie with what's left over. Go ahead and mix it up really good. You want to preheat your oven at 450. And you're going to put it in the oven for 10 minutes. Once you get the pie in your little shells. And that's going to avoid you having to heat up the pie crust first. It's just going to make it cook a lot faster around the bottom of the pan so that it gives you that nice little edge on your edge of your pie. Alright, so now I'm just going to use a spoon and ladle this into my pie crust. These are the miniature ones. Alrighty. This is probably going to be a little messy. It does seem to be a little thin. You can reduce the amount of milk if you are using canned sweet potatoes, because canned sweet potatoes are a little moister. But either way, it's going to work out just fine. If you're seeing these lumps in here, that's just from the butter. It's going to melt away after it cooks. And I'm just filling them all the way to the top because, as y'all know, pumpkin does not really swell up. It actually cooks and then it just cooks right back down. So go ahead and fill those all the way up. Not really going to be too much left. I think what I'm going to do with the leftovers is I'm going to make sweet potato pancakes for breakfast in the morning. I'm not even going to worry about making another pie because there's not going to be that many of us here for Thanksgiving this year. So now I'm just going back and making sure they're all full enough. But I will make sweet potato pancakes with what's left over, and that's going to be just as delicious. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and throw these in the oven at 450 for 10 minutes, and then I will bake it for about 40 to 45 minutes at 350, and I'll bring y'all right back and show you what that looks like. Alright folks, the miniature or mini sweet potato pies are done. I'm going to read the ingredients one more time, and I will put it in the description box below. 2 eggs, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, 1 cup of sugar, 1/8 of a teaspoon of nutmeg, 1 cup of milk, 2 tablespoons of butter softened at room temperature, 1½ cups of mashed sweet potatoes, and this will make definitely 12 of the miniature sweet potato pies plus another pie. The recipe says it makes 2 8-inch pie shells. So, of course, all good cooks taste their food before they serve it to their guest, right? Sorry, Mother, this will not spoil my appetite before supper. Guess that's the luxury of being a grown-up. Just had to throw that in there. I have some ice cream on top of one of them, and you also could put Cool Whip on top. So let me taste it and see what we think. That is very good. Ice cream was starting to melt. Very good. I'll bring y'all closer so y'all can see what I'm talking about. See if I can do this. Alright, I think y'all can see how delicious that is. Sweet potato pie. Very, very, very good. Let me get a bite and show y'all. Alright, y'all. That will do it for today. I hope everyone has a wonderful and blessed Thanksgiving. Gathered around family and friends to set this day aside to remember to be thankful and grateful for all that we have. Be sure to taste your words before you speak them. Lots of people and family and friends and even neighbors are going through a lot of things right now. The world is actually going crazy. I know I've mentioned that before. So be mindful of things that people may be dealing with that you have no clue about. So be sure to taste your words before you speak them. I hope everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving. So farewell, Homestead family, friends, and neighbors from the Cozy Cottage Homestead.